Well, I appreciate being here. This is a little bit on the lighter side, but these are things that always have piqued my interest.
We'd like it if everything were on the lighter side. Your source is on the lighter side, your energy is on the lighter side, everything is on the lighter side, all as well is on the lighter side. Nothing is more important than the lighter side.
Well, well, about some 30-odd years ago, I was a very heavy smoker, and it was very difficult for me to stop smoking. So I woke up one morning and I thought to myself, my God, I'm going to quit smoking. So I just said, 6 months from this day, I'm going to quit smoking, and I don't care whether there's an earthquake or whether the world comes to an end, I am going to stop
The
smoking.
lighter side, we can get to the lighter side.
Oh, no, it was. But anyway, well, maybe this isn't the lighter side, but anyway, that 6-month day came up, and it was the worst day imaginable.
Of yours?
If you
We've been planning it for 6 months.
that's my,
Quite a culmination point.
well, see, that was my question. I just don't understand that. It's inconceivable to me that all these events could come together and create that day. I mean, did I wake up that day? Did I intuit that, or did I?
No, you created that.
I could create that.
You created that. In other words, as during that interim, as you said, I don't care what happens on such and such a date, even if the world comes to an end, even if it's the worst day imaginable, even if all bad things culminate on that day, still, that is the day that I will no longer do something that I really would like to do.
Right. And so I get the universe, I guess, just complied.
We have another question for you.
Yes.
Did you quit that?
Yes, I did. I absolutely did. Actually.
So you
It's
planned.
wonderful.
So you planned that too.
Yeah.
In other words, so everything that you programmed for
Yeah.
did culminate that day.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Absolutely.
Good. Then the universe, as we know it, is still in order.
Oh.
It's like Esther loves it when she's driving and she has a navigational system that is counting the miles down to her destination. And then she has an odometer that's counting the miles that are traveled. And so frequently on a trip, she will not be aware of either one of them. And then she will have an impulse to look, and they will both read the same number, which means she has chosen at the exact midway of her journey to look at the numbers. And as you said, it's inconceivable. In other words, she could not calculate that mathematically, and yet a part of her, the part that is us, the part of us that is knowing that that delights her, is always alerting her, and because she is able to receive it, she gets that information. Everything is orchestrated by this powerful law of attraction. And if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would leave behind the words, "It's inconceivable," and begin saying, I now understand that all things are possible. And while I, just like electricity or just like the workings of my engine or whatever, I don't have to understand the intricacies of how it works. I know that it works. I know that anything that I am wanting to know, all manner of infinite intelligence is mine to be had. All I have to do is relax and trust that it is there.
Ah, I see that.
All that is works for your well-being and to answer anything that you want to know. You are the center of your vibrational universe, and we could not begin to describe to you the resources that are at your disposal. We think you do not understand the importance of who you are and the value that this leading-edge personality in focus has to all that is, you see. Sometimes you treat yourselves like you are just unworthy humans here, mucking your way through the mire in order to prove some sort of worthiness to someone else, and we say, it is so far different from that. You are source energy focused. You are important to all that is. Everything is at your disposal. Nothing should be inconceivable to you.
All right.
All righty then.
Well, my second question is this. I took a 3-month trip, which I called my quest to the mountains. And I was going to do hiking and swimming. So I went to see a friend of my sister's before I did this. And she said, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm going to go hiking. And she paused and she said, well, aren't you afraid of the bears? And I hadn't thought about that. But as soon as she said that, then I started to obsess on bears. So every time I got on a trail, I would see signs of bears, and pretty soon I couldn't think of anything but a bear. And I started thinking, well, if I keep doing this, one day I'm going to wake up and there's going to be a bear in the shower. So what I did, I went into this virtual reality because I couldn't think of anything else to do. So I would see bears, but then when the bears came, I would deal with them. I'd throw them over my shoulder, or I'd do something. But I just did. It's that old adage, I guess. I didn't know how to stop thinking about bears.
Think about something else.
I was trying to.
In other words, you can't not think about bears, because when you're not thinking about bears, you're thinking about not thinking about bears, but you're basically just thinking about bears. So now this is where the path of least resistance is of value. Now, sometimes it's helpful if you have a little lead time. In other words, how much time before your trip did this person activate within you the subject of bears?
Well, actually, it was just before I was going on that first hike.
And as you thought about the subject of bears, was it a pleasurable thought of adventure, or was it a fearful, uncomfortable thought? In other words, which way did it feel?
It was uncomfortable.
And so you're embarking in your mind. You're not actually stepping on the trail yet, but you're embarking on your mind. So what thoughts might you think that would feel a little resistant in nature? So we'll throw some things out to you, or you can throw them in if you want to. But so, for example, this is what we would do. I usually don't run into bears. There are bears lurking everywhere I go. Which is the less resistant thought?
Usually you're running into bears. Yeah.
I usually don't run into bears.
Absolutely.
The bears have nothing to do in their life except lurk and wait for me. The bear is living a life of its own and has very little interest in me.
Well, yeah, that's obvious. It has the lip.
Every hiker that ever hikes has a bear problem. Bears are rarely a problem to hikers. Hikers are hiking all over the place, and bears are not a problem. In other words, you get this. So what you do is you've talked yourself down from your bear fear before you step on the trail, so that not only are you back in alignment with well-being, but you do not have an activated vibration about bears. Now let's do the other. Let's escalate this. Let's make sure you rendezvous with a bear. So this person says to you, aren't you afraid of bears? And so then you go through the same thing. You say, I rarely see bears, or there are bears everywhere I go. And you say, well, I don't see that many, but I know they're out there. And then you say, and this time of year, there's probably not very much for them to eat. They're probably really hungry. And I've seen those television programs where they come and turn over campers, and they tear tents apart, and they break windows out, and they eat small children. In other words, I've seen those documentaries, and I've heard that there's more bears out than have ever been out before, and I'm sure that I'll see bear signs along the way. I'm sure that there'll be plenty of evidence of bears. Don't you think it's interesting that you saw evidence of bears, but you saw no bears?
Yeah, well,
And when we talked to the bears, they didn't tell us the same story. They saw you.
I had a hunch that I actually had. Just one more question. I was hiking up this trail, and this was during this bear affair, and I came to this corner, and I heard in the bushes, I heard this row, like a calf.
Your friend didn't tell you about the cat?
No, she had. So, no, she wasn't laughing. Well, yeah, no. So anyway,
a good warning friend would have warned you about them too.
She should have, yeah, absolutely. So anyway, I thought to myself, no, gee whiz, it sounds like a cat, and I'm up in the mountains, and it's probably not a kitty cat, but I thought, well, I know I know I have this fear about the bears, so I'm not going to pay any attention to this. I'm just going to keep on going. So anyway, I turned the corner, and about 100 yards up was this bloodhound, and the bloodhound started barking. But I mean, it wasn't a vicious bark. It was almost like it was a warning, like it was saying, "Don't come any further. You shouldn't come any further." So I turned back. And my question about that is, was that's somehow like my inner being kind of warning me not to go further, or I don't understand. But I mean, I did feel like that was kind of genuine, and then I just shouldn't go up that path.
Well, before we answer that question, we want to ask another one of you, and that is, overall, when you think about that trip, not from your standpoint now of having finished it, but when you think about it while it was in progress, was it more pleasurable to you or more fearful to you?
Oh, I loved it. It was very pleasurable.
And so you could feel that, for the most part, with the exception of a few fleeting thoughts, that you were in vibrational harmony with your well-being. Or otherwise, you would not have proceeded on the journey at all. And so what you're wanting now to ascertain is, were there signs along the way that influenced you to decisions that were the best decisions for you? And we say absolutely, absolutely. Those signs are always there. Esther will be driving along. She keeps looking at the speedometer on this new motor coach that has a 500 horsepower engine and discovers that she's going 85 miles an hour and does not even realize it. Jerry says, "Why don't you use the cruise control?" And Esther doesn't tell him, but she thinks because it is a little limiting. And so, but as she is wailing down the roadway, every now and again she will get a clear sensation to ease up, and she does immediately. And at that point, Jerry usually looks up from whatever he's doing and says, "What happens?" It's like the engine has stopped or something. And Esther will say, "I just got the impulse to slow up." And almost without exception, within a mile, there is a police car there interested in those that are going 85. But of course, by then, Esther is not. So what is this all about? It's about guidance from broader perspective that is helping to Esther to maintain all of the intentions that she holds, which is to safely and ticketlessly move forward through life experience. She says, "Trust your inner being." And so that's what happens. In other words, it does not matter where the guidance is coming from. What we do with Esther and what your inner being does with you is we give her the impulse, and the impulse would be for you, "I think I'll go this way rather than this. I think I'll go this way rather than this." And that way, you are always guided around any bear. And the bear's inner being is doing the same thing. In other words, you're not set out to rendezvous. You're set out from your point of broader perspective to live happily ever after. The wilderness is full of beasts. They don't want to all be evacuated. No one is sending out a warning, "The man is coming today, clear out." In other words, they're all still there. And so what we are saying to you is that the guidance that is within you is always guiding you to the path of least resistance. The question is, how receptive to that path of least resistance are you? Because sometimes you say, "No, this is always the way that I go." In other words, a more resistant Esther would say, "It's none of their business how I drive. It's my business how I drive." Well, they don't necessarily agree with that. They think it's their business how she drives. And so, as Esther is receiving the first impulse, we don't offer her another. But if she's in the middle of something and doesn't hear us, or she's having a negative thought so she really can't hear us, then stronger information comes forth. And very often, another motorist will scoot around her going very fast and then suddenly slow up because they have a radar detector on their contraption. And when Esther then, with her eyes, sees someone suddenly change their speed, an 18-wheeler that's been romping down the road and all of a sudden pulls over and slows right down, it's a message that's hard to miss, you see. Now, Esther had other messages first. She just missed them for whatever reason. But now she has that. Or all of a sudden, Jerry, who's in a state of connection, as he's been editing or reading, he'll look up and he'll say, "Why don't you pull over here and let's change drivers," or "Let's take the next exit." All kinds of things. There are endless things that are always lined up to assist you. You don't have to catch it the first time or the second or the 100th or the 1,000th. Well-being is so lined up for you, and it comes from every avenue. And yes, in answer to your question, often a beast will deliver the message to you. Someday you'll understand that even the bear could bring you a message of well-being.
Well, I sure hope it's a good one. Well, thank you. That's all I have.
A message of well-being always is a good one. Yes, indeed. What now?